guys, my name is Ismail. I'm a third year economics student. I'm an international student from Sri Lanka. My manifesto revolves around the idea of providing opportunities for everyone. It highlights on issues such as inclusivity, welfare, employability, spreading ideas of exchange such as having a speakers union. So it's all about providing opportunities and all about bringing about new changes which will revolutionize the way the union operates, such as merging of International Welcome Week and Freshers Week, giving everyone an opportunity to make friends from all around the world.
Hey, my name's Emma. I'm a third year medical physiology and therapeutics student based on Derby campus. My manifesto mainly revolves around the idea that all students should be included in and have the best university experience that they possibly can. I'd like to do this by collaborating more with each individual student as much as possible. I've made sure and I've done my very best to make sure that all my manifesto points are achievable and realistic, and I'd really just like to make sure that everyone's asked what they want and they have the best possible university experience.
Thank you very much, Emma. Anonymous.
Hello, I'm part of Genonymous, my name's The Chosen One. So the point of Genonymous is all about the fact that we want to separate it from the popularity contest. We want it to be about the merits of the manifesto, about how great the SU is and how much that person shows they're going to continue the hard work of the SU. We want to make sure that the president works for their committee, for the education rep, for the community, for every single person on that team. That's what Genonymous is about. We want to make sure that the SU runs smoothly, and that's what the president should be doing, and that is what Genonymous will do for the SU.
Thank you very much. Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm a third year philosophy student. I've been really involved in the student union since my first year, being a course rep and IMS captain. Last year I was hockey captain, this year I'm president of one of the largest sports clubs, the ladies hockey. I've seen how the student union has improved year after year after year, and I just see so much more room for improvement, and I'd love to get the opportunity to make every student's university life the best it can possibly be, and that is just the whole point of my manifesto. I've met with as many people as I possibly can to create a manifesto made by the students, for the students, to make our lives the best it can be.
I'm Jess. I'm also, like these guys, running for president. I feel like I've got quite a breadth of experience across the SU. From, I started off uni having never sat on a horse, and now I'm president. I've learned all there is to know about that sport, and I feel like I've taken that sport quite far in terms of the club growth. I was also involved in the setting up of the volunteering service Nottingham Night Owls. Last year I was a childline volunteer for 6 months. I really know how it is to actively listen to people. It's not just about formulating answers, it's about taking what people's experiences are and turning that into positive change. I'm hoping that I've run a more relatable and approachable campaign. I think the point of the SU president is entirely to represent the students, and I'm hoping that that's what I can do.
Thank you very much, Jess. Thank you to all of you. So in a similar vein to Elliot, I'll ask the question, why should you be Students' Union President? Start with Ismail again.
The thing about being SU President, the reason why I would like to be SU President is I feel I have an international experience firstly, and what I feel is I could bring about changes which the students really would like after consulting with many SRSs, student leaders, student networks, and they want something different and something new. So I feel that my ideas for the union, it'll be much better for the student body. So yeah.
Thank you, Ismail.
Emma? So I've thought about this question a lot. I've come up with 3 qualities that I have that I think would make a good SU president. I'm caring, I'm dedicated, and I'm experienced. I'd like to just sort of give a brief overview. From the very beginning, I've been very involved with the SU. from getting involved with UNAD, which is kind of like the SB Guild for Derby, to doing 2 cycles of Welcome Week or Week 1. And I've also been involved in a course society. I've been in Carney. I have a job with the Brand and Insight department within the SU. So I have a very, very good insight into how that SU actually works and what actually goes on in the SU in many, many different areas. Also, I have a wider view of the SU coming from Derby campus. I know what it's like to be from a satellite campus, but being involved on UP a lot, I know what it's like to be on UP. I was also in SBC, so I know what it's like to be in an off-campus hall. I just feel I have a wider view of the SU as a whole.
Thank you, Emma. Anonymous?
Cool. Chosen one, please.
The chat, sorry, you need to change that on there.
It's all right. You can call me Anonymous. It's fine.
No.
It actually feeds into my point quite nicely. So, Genonymous is everyone. That is the point of Genonymous. We're a legion. We're a collective. We're a group. So when you say why would you be good for SG president or why do you want to be SG president, it's because Genonymous knows everything. Because Genonymous is a team and works with everyone as a team. You can take that as a joke, but you could take it as seriousness. If I'm a team leader, what I'm doing is not saying, hey, I've got this expertise, I'm amazing at this and I'm amazing at this, let me do this. I'm saying, guys, let's work out what our pros and our cons are each, and then let's work how we can work as efficiently as possible as a team to run the SU. And that's what Genonymous is all about, and that's what I'm going to end every single statement tonight. Genonymous is all about teamwork.
Cool. Mary?
So again, this question's been proposed to us quite a few times, and we've all had so much time to think about it. A manifesto is a massive part of electing an SU president, but what I feel some people don't take into consideration is it's not just about the manifesto, it's about the actual person. What you want to do when you're electing a president is electing someone who you can relate to, who you think would be a good representative of you. I'm willing to represent all of you guys, and I feel that as a very relatable, engaging person, I would take anybody's opinion and put it forward and lobby the university for what the students want. So that's why I think I'd be a good candidate.
Thank you very much. Jess?
Yeah, similarly to everyone that's already spoken, and actually what Genonymous says is very much my stance as well. Every person at this table has a very narrow view of university. Yes, they're all different, and yes, you all have different experiences, but actually you are one person and that's all you can experience. It's about talking to the students and finding out what they've experienced and then translating that back into the SU, the changes that are made, all the decisions that have to be talked about. So it's we're all running for a reason. We're all running because we want to make change, but it's about who's actually going to listen and make the right changes and take into consideration everyone at university and not just what they think is their priority.
Thanks, Jess. Thank you. All very good answers. So I'm going to open it up now to discussions and questions. Brian?
So as an officer, you're there to represent all 34,000 students across the board. Sometimes in your role, you have to make decisions that you feel benefit the wider student population, for which certain students disagree with, certain groups disagree with. This sometimes puts officers in quite a difficult position. A lot of the year we've all had to do different things. Where do you think the line is between benefiting the wider student population in the decision and individual students and their groups?
I'm happy to take that, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think individuals need to feel like they're being listened to and that they're valued. And I think this is where, what Angharad ran her campaign about, the transparency of the SU. And if people understand that a decision had to be made and that decision was difficult, when you have to let them down, that means that they know why and they know the ins and outs of why that decision's been made. People are okay with being told that something might have to happen that they're not really enthusiastic about, as long as they know why that decision's been made and that it's a logical and coherent answer. We can't please everyone all the time, but you can explain to people why we can't do certain things. And I think this is why the relationship between the SU and the students is so important, because if they don't feel like they can connect with you, then they're just going to get really annoyed when you can't do what they want.
Thanks.
I think similar to Jess's point, you've got to understand that different students want different things. The president of rugby is going to want different things to the president of rambling. But that's what the whole student leaders are about. They're about representing individual groups and individual people. they're going to want different things, so they're going to have to work with individuals to see what they want and try and basically work for everybody's needs, as opposed to just thinking there's one universal thing for everyone. It's going to be different depending on the situation.
Thanks. Chosen one.
Thank you. Like I said before, like Geronymous wants to build that team and listen to every single person. And the postgrad spoke about surveys, and maybe yes or no, you want to do surveys all the time. But at the end of the day, we want the constant feedback. We want to be maybe using little surveys or just getting this constant feedback. Hey, come talk to us. Tell us anything you want, any problems. Having that transparency is really important. If, say, you're putting in a proposal or some sort of idea that may cause a little bit of either controversy or some people to get upset about the change you've made, you need to be as transparent as possible and say, hey, look, we understand that there are some problems here, but this is the first time we're going to iron out any creases to make this and maximise how happy students are. And if you tell them, we understand you're not going to be great about this, then they're going to be more supportive and more sympathetic about what you're doing.
Thanks very much. Emma?
Yeah, much like the others have said, you're not always going to be able to there's always going to be someone who may not be happy with the decisions that you're making, but it's very much about collaborating with the individual student groups and seeing how each thing that you're doing, taking a look at it and seeing how you can just shift it slightly for each different student group. It may not be possible all the time to meet everybody's wants, but again, it's about the collaboration, and it's about, again, explaining why you've had to make the decision, what are the factors which influence the decision, and why that's the way it has to be. And if you are clear with your decision making process, then there will be things that people can't dispute, and you just have to set it out and say, we had to do this, it was difficult, but we've done our best.
As a president, we have to take a neutral stance, or as the 7 members, we need to take a neutral stance when we are faced with these decisions. When I spoke to many religious groups, all of them had varied opinions. They asked, what's my personal view on this? I was like, if I do get elected SU president, I will make sure, like your personal opinions do not interfere with decisions. And what I tried to explain to them was, end of the day, it has to be a very open process, like what happens in the union council meetings, where there's open to debates and discussions, and also when it comes to funding, why certain societies get more funding, why certain societies do not get as much funding. If that process could be made clear and more transparent, I feel more groups will be more aware to say, okay, we are not being favored for this reason, they are getting more funding to this reason. So I feel that will break the stigma that the university or the union favors certain clubs which are more active in varsity and they don't compete with the non-competitive.
Thank you. It's horrible when that tappy goes on. I feel very pressurised. Yeah, good answers, thank you. Any other questions for the presidential candidates? Yeah?
You've all mentioned that you want to change something or implement something new. What would you say is the most important thing in your manifesto that you want to implement? So if you only could choose one, what would you focus on?
We'll start with Ismail.
My main thing, what I felt is university is a place of ideas of exchange. So we need to give opportunities for people to meet. So my main thing is, if I would pick one, it will be merging of International Welcome Week and Freshers Week. Let me tell you an example. What happens is international students, they come 1 week before, they make their friends in International Welcome Week, party with them at Freshers, and stick with them for the rest of the 3 years. So it doesn't give you an opportunity to meet with home students. And also home students feel that, although you're a home student, I would like to give you an international experience by making friends from India, Sri Lanka, Germany, France. Because this is a great time to meet people, so if you miss out on these 3 years, I feel it will be difficult to make friends once you start working and stuff like that. That's my main point.
I think that all of my manifesto points are equally as important, but maybe one of the biggest ones to tackle is the food provisions across all university sites. it's obviously a change that probably won't happen in 1 year, but Angharad's been working very well and she's made some great progress this year, and I'd like to carry on with that. It's inadequate at the moment. My housemate's lactose intolerant, there's not many food options for her. I have a friend who's celiac, and in halls she literally bought her own meals on top of the meals that she's paying for because the food just wasn't good enough for her. And I think that because being well nourished and eating good food is so important for your studies and just to get on with your life, that the food provisions on campus really, really need to be looked at and improved.
Hello. If you've read my manifesto, you'll see one point that really stands out is mental health. The reason I put that in the manifesto was much more to be making it a talking point. We need to stop it being a taboo topic. So I made it a talking point. However, I actually have one hidden manifesto point, which is actually, I think, is probably the most important one that every one of these people should have. That is, the president's only manifesto point should be work for the team. Don't push your own agenda. Just come in and say, hey, I'm going to support you. What do you want to do? You're a postgrad officer. You're going to do an amazing job because you understand postgrads. Your education. You're running for education because you want to help education. I'm not going to come in and tell them what to do. I'm going to come in and support them. And that is what Genonymous is all about.
I'm going to go for, again, I've got similar points to these guys. One point I'll discuss is I want to create an app. I know Brownley's been working on a sports app and Harrod's been working on an SU app. I want to have one app for every single online interface that the university has. That's Newcastle, Portal, Moodle, Internet, literally all of them. Collaborate them all into one space. So it'd have all the online sites, and also there'd be an interactive map of campus, there'd be the timetable app, bus timetables, how busy libraries are, where there's free space, working points, everything all in one space. Hackathon are things that the Hack Swap do. So they'd sit down for 48 hours, no sleep, basically just drill it and do it, and they'd be able to get this done in 48 hours. Might need a bit of tweaking after that, but that's one of the main points that I'd like to push for, accessibility.
Yeah, I'd say mine is around welfare, because this is something that I believe affects absolutely everybody. Everybody's welfare is important, and everybody's welfare varies across their time at university. I think everyone's talked about signposting and how that needs to improve online, but also staff knowledge, I think, is a big one. So quite a lot of us have come fresh out of school where you have authority figures who, if you have a problem, you go to your teacher. I think when you're in first year, that kind of carries over and you think, I've got a personal tutor. If I have a problem, you would probably think to ask that person. And actually what's happening is when they're being asked questions, they're not knowing the right answer to give the first time. If you get an answer that's wrong the first time round and you get sent to the counselling service and the counselling service has got a month's wait and actually you need CBT or you need to go, to the sexual health clinic or somewhere, that's going to make you question whether you should ask that person again. So I think improving staff and tutor knowledge of welfare services is a great first step to kind of improving our welfare at the university.
Thank you. Elliot? Oh, sorry, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Could each candidate please describe themselves as a president in one word?
Could we say that for
Could each candidate please describe themselves as a president in one word?
Likeable.
Who's going first?
Sorry. Did you just say
Yeah. Likeable.
likeable? Emma?
Determined.
Cooperative.
Engaging.
Approachable.
Brilliant.
Another accent there.
Thank you. Good question at the
What will everyone will offer for the other campuses, which is far and a bit isolated? Because I feel like all the activities is for the main campus. So what about Derby, Sutton Buddington, City Hospital, QC, and
I'll start with Emma because I haven't started.
I love that question. So being based on Derby, I know exactly how it feels to feel a bit to feel very separate from the SU. I genuinely think it just comes down to having someone in as a president who will just take that 1 second to think, how can we do this for Derby? How can we change this for SB? How can we make sure this reaches City Hospital? There are so many students out there on the satellite campuses, and there are so many things that could easily be adapted to reach the satellite campuses. I mean, I don't have all the answers as to how we can do it straight away, but it is very much about collaborating with UNAD in Derby, with the SB Guild, and asking the students what they want, and asking how we can make it happen for them. So.
Thank you. Mary?
So welfare is a massive thing that I want to improve across campuses. For example, already at Uni Park we have it's like a 3-week waiting list to get any counselling. Over at Sutton Bonington, there's I think about 34% of students that study there are actually on antidepressants. However, they only have counselling every Thursday. That's just basically not enough at all. So I want to ensure that the counselling, to start off with on satellite campuses, is improved and then bring it across to us as well. And secondly, the cliched answer, hopper buses. There's such an issue. I know Emma and Angharad are doing such a good job at the moment, but just massively improve that. And also just keep the relationships with the head of UNAD, head of the Guild, keep them going really strong. This year's been fantastic. James over at the Guild has been such rave reviews about Angharad and the rest of the team. So I want to keep the relationships really high, and that's what I would do.
Jess?
Yeah, so it's very similar to what Janonymous said earlier about making sure that you're listening to the students. When I was over on SB yesterday, I was chatting to a few students there, and they were talking about the dietary provisions upstairs and saying there weren't enough vegan options or around those lines. And you know, that's something that I would never have realised because I'm not vegan and I'm not on Sutton Bonington. So there's so many issues that are really small issues that can be changed very quickly just by talking to people on different campuses and listening to what they have to say. I know a lot of us have got very specific things in our manifesto points about it, but I think it's very easy to give these promises now and then disappear into the office and never talk about it again. It's about keeping that going and making sure that once we've changed one thing, we're asking, okay, what's the next thing we can change? You know, keep it going and not just kind of get a bit stagnant and happy with what we've done.
Chosen one?
Okay, let's do a metaphor, or analogy. So you've got a friend in another city. If you wanted to make sure you maintained your friendship with them, you'd go to visit them and they'd come to visit you. What we should be doing is encouraging Uni Park students to go to the other campuses. Like Sutton Bonington has a brilliant stage space for performances and it has the farmers market. Why don't we start promoting that and saying, hey, come to Sutton Bonington? That will start integrating the community. The fact that Sutton Bonington seems like little, I guess like a clique or like a small sort of community that can't integrate with Uni Park is because Uni Park is also a clique and a group that doesn't really want to integrate with Sutton Bonington. So we need to try and encourage people to go both ways and have a two-way communication if we want to start integrating the satellite campuses. And that's what Janonymous is all about.
Satellite campuses, it's difficult to put in the same ideologies of how University Park or Jubilee operates to Sutton Bonington or Derby. They operate on a separate, like when I went and spoke to the SB Guild, they say, you know what, we are happy as we are, but although we would like certain help such as, you know, like SC officers visiting them more frequently, just being there to say, you know what guys, everything is all right. What I would like to have is, you know, have like a sabbatical position in, for example, in Derby or Sutton Bonington, and which could be considered into, which could be like reviewed and see, you know what, if someone is there full time who could work for other students and devote more time to make their welfare and better provisions over there.
Brilliant, thank you. Harry?
Yeah, okay, so I want to put a disclaimer on this question first because I'm not trying to catch you out and I'm not trying to be horrible, but I just want to try and ask you something that's kind of scenario based to see how you approach the role of president and what your opinions are of what you can do within the role and how you should act within the role. So I'm going to give you a real life scenario and just ask you to respond to it, okay? So It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you get a phone call, it could be any time, it's not 4 o'clock, and you get a phone call from a senior member of university staff saying that the university have not hit their financial targets this year, and they're cutting £2 million from the bursary budget, which means that a lot of students who rely on money to be at this university will either have that money taken away from them, or students who are arriving would have access to it. What do you do?
Jess?
Please take 30 seconds to think about it, because I know it's not an easy question and there's no right or wrong answer. But
Should we take 30 seconds and then Jess?
Yeah.
Afterwards,
Was
Harry.
it, yeah, and yeah, I'll answer.
Afterwards, Harry will tell you after.
Jess?
Okay, so much smaller scale, but this year, thanks Bramley, our equestrian club budget was cut from £5,000 to £250.
So well financially,
Sorry to call you out there, but so I was told that it would stay the same by the previous president, so I'm there having a great summer, having the time of my life, get an email and go, oh crap, what am I supposed to do? We looked at our budget from the last year and we looked at where we were spending money, and what it came down to in the end was where can people step up and where can we make money where people will actually enjoy making money. So what we did is we've increased like the yearly trip that we do, and we've made sure that we make more money on that. And what I found is the people on the committee, once you say to people, right, do you know what, this is really difficult, we've got a lot less money than we thought we would have, we all really need to pull together. Every time you do an event, you do a trip, you do a social, just have a think about how much your expenditure is and where you can perhaps either decrease the expenditure or increase the profit. And just getting people to have that awareness made them go, oh, okay, yeah, and we've been absolutely fine and we've become much more sustainable. So I think, again, the transparency, yeah, so it's been a good thing. Yeah. But yeah, just kind of making people aware of the situation and relying on them to step up and go, yeah, actually, I can help you out in this way. Because it'll all add together. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Mary?
Similar to Jess, the hockey club had some funding cut, thank you, Bramley. So what we do is very similar ideas. Firstly, set and understand why it was cut. I know they've sort of explained it, but understand like the proper background, see if there's any way that we can maybe half what they're cutting to keep a little bit of the money still there. Otherwise, find different ways that we can bring the funding in. At the end of the day, we're here to get a degree. Everything else that comes to the university is fantastic. But if these students who are relying upon the bursaries cannot get that, they're at a disadvantage because of their backgrounds. So I think it's massively important to put the emphasis on the degree. So speak to them, be like, look, realistically, maybe we cut from something, some extracurricular stuff, so students are still able to get their degree from the university, which is the reason that they come here in the first place.
Okay. I will answer your story with a story. Well, a continuation to the story. So, I get a call at 4 o'clock. It doesn't have to be 4 o'clock. And the first thing I do is probably panic a little bit. You just found out £2 million is disappearing. So you think to yourself, okay, what can I do? First thing you got to do is call a meeting. You got to get as many student leaders or other people from the SU to get together and brainstorm, sort out what's going on. You've got to work as a team. You can't say, oh, I'm the president, I know what's going on, I'm going to go make a massive decision, and then watch as people go, what the hell have you done? You've just made this problem 1,000,000 times worse than it was 30 seconds ago. So you then decide, okay, what can we do? And maybe you think about like investments, maybe you think about financial alternatives that will help get that money back without it having to come directly from Nottingham. There's alumni networks that are happy to donate money to the university. There are so many investors that are willing, if we can give them a little bit of advertising space, that will be able to give us money that we can help to mould the students' lives at the university.
Thank you.
I'm not going to pretend to have any clue about how to do anything financial in any way, shape or form.
That wasn't the point of the question.
So,
how do you respond, essentially?
But
what's your thought process?
I believe that it's important to ask for help when you need it. And although you're in a role of power, there are still there's still the SU staff, and there are still people at the university who will be there to help you in a situation like this. I believe it would be about going along and meeting with the university and speaking to the people involved and asking about what could be done. So, yeah, I wouldn't know what to do, but it would be about collaborating with the people higher up to ask what could be done.
I think it's a great question as it affects many international students who have to rely on, let's say, exchange rate fluctuations, funding from governments, funding from families. So it's hard to predict whether you'll be able to pay your next tuition fees or you can pay your rent next. So hearing a situation like that will affect the international students, home students. Like how John, the chosen one, how he said was there are other external funding, and also within our university there's something called the crisis fund for adverse. So if your family can't afford to pay tuition fees, you can get options such as paying in smaller installments or paying it at a longer date. So if the university could understand, you know what, bursary has been cut, so work with the stakeholders such as the student services and come to a agreement saying, you know what, this has been just brought upon us. Instead of suspending our Moodle service, give us some more time to think about other options.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Harry, would you like to tell
What
them what you did?
There's no right answer at the point of the question, but thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
How did you have to deal with this?
Yeah.
How did you?
I panicked, like you said. We did a lot of things as a team, but we managed to resolve it.
Cool. Thank you. I think we'll have to have two last questions. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to ask a question? Okay, Laura.
Okay, it's a bit of a different question, but I know there's huge emerging issues on campuses around the world at the moment. Is that of free speech, hate speech in safe spaces? So how would you, as president, make sure that students feel safe and don't feel that they're being discriminated against, but at the same time you don't impinge on their right to free speech?
Thank you very much. Would you guys like 30 seconds just to think about that? Yeah, of course.
Jump in on that.
Very
if you
live
like.
debate.
I'll
Yeah.
jump in. Okay. So
Sorry.
obviously this comes down to if we the good example that's happened recently is the no platform vote that happened within our own university, where a neo-Nazi protest came onto campus. The point of that is the fact that you need to observe that the law exists to keep people safe. If we are observant of what's going on our campuses, which the SU should be, and I believe it is. I have no doubt that they're working hard. If we are observant of that, then we can try to ensure safety. Again, it also comes down to communication. If people feel free to come to us and say, I don't feel safe, be that through hate speech, even if it be about mental health, you need a platform that people can go to and say, hey, look, I'm scared, help me, and that's what the SU are there to do, and that's what we will do as Genonymous.
Thank you. Would anyone like to volunteer or?
Yeah.
So Mary, then Ismail.
So I think as it's already been shown through DIPA and flying the North Korea flag, we are quite an open university. We do accept many things. What I would do as president, if anybody did have any controversial views or stuff they were worried about, just make sure that I was very open to talk to them and offer them all the support that there is, guide them in the directions to where to go, give them the best opinions that I can offer them, and just give them the support and know that the university is there to back them.
Thank you. Ismail?
Free speech is great in my opinion. If not for free speech, movements such as the civil rights movement would not have taken place. Just 1 hour before, I had a meeting with the JSOC president, and he asked me about my personal ideas about the no platform policies. As one of my main manifesto points is having a speakers union, which I would invite speakers from all around the world. You know, like I said, university is a place of ideas, of discussion. So you wouldn't learn much as an individual if you want to hear what you want to hear. You need to have different opinions. But that does not mean that I will give a platform for neo-Nazi people to come and speak, because they would not contribute something to our enrichment and our development and to betterment of university. If incidences happen like this and which students feel unsafe, no one should feel unsafe because we all pay £9,000 here. We need to beef up security and make sure this sort of incident doesn't occur again.
Thank you. Emma then Jess?
Okay, so I've been a few people have asked me this question. In fact, in Ocean last week, someone asked me this question. But and from speaking to people who've asked me this question, I found that actually having this freedom of speech, freedom for people to come in and speak about their ideas, it gives us as students a chance to learn and to make our own decisions. The students should have that right to make their own decisions. However, you must be aware that some speakers or some groups may potentially pose stressful or offensive or upsetting views to some students. So it's also about creating a safe space for the students who choose to opt out of listening to some people's ideas. But you, again, there is the law in place, so you can't infringe upon freedom of speech. But it's a good thing to learn from. But also you need to have things in place to protect the people who ask for help being yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
So I think as these guys have said, and it was proposed to us in the URN debate as well, we're all backers of freedom of speech. I think anyone is, within education it backs that. I think perhaps what the difficulty that we've got at the minute is that people don't know where they can go when they feel like they've been offended or they've been discriminated against. And I think if we can develop more of a platform of somewhere, a space where someone can go and say, I've heard this and I'm not happy about it, and they feel like they're actually going to be listened to, then perhaps that might answer the kind of difficulty that we've got. So I think it's not about restricting freedom of speech. It's allowing that to happen, but also saying it is okay to feel like you've been offended or discriminated, and we will respect that and we will listen to that, and there will be consequences, and not just kind of ignoring the whole thing and saying, we'll just stop people from talking. Instead, let people talk, and if you have a problem with that, come to us and tell us, and we will do something about it.
Thank you very much. Hi, Diff, sorry we had to start. We've got quite a tight schedule, but do you want to just take this opportunity now just to introduce yourself? Do you need a moment just to breathe and get a glass of water? I think you've run from lab.
So my name is Dipa Patel, and I'm running a platform of reforming the SU. The fact is, a lot of students, the vast majority of them, are disengaged with student union politics, with sometimes petty political disputes that sometimes either the SU engage in or the NUS engage in. I'm here to change that, so that the Students' Union can be reformed in a way that it can act towards the majority of students. Now, I was just in labs and I literally had to run from, well, not literally, but I had to run from QMC to get here. And what that signifies is that there are a lot of people that are so busy with their work schedules that they're unable to even participate within the SU or interact with it in such a way. How do we reach out to them? That is what my campaign is about. It's about reaching out to those who feel disengaged and trying to reform the institutions that we have so that we can finally reflect the majority of the students that we represent.
Thank you. Would you like the opportunity to answer the question that was just posed on freedom of speech and no platform policies?
Yeah, I'm unequivocally against any sort of policy which flies in the face of freedom of speech. In fact, I will defend freedom of speech to the absolute bone, to the limit. Everyone should be given a platform. That is what university is about. It's an incubator of free thought. It's a place where people come to exchange ideas. There should not be any safe spaces. People should hear the vast majority of the vast majority of views that they can, and that's how people develop their own views. By listening to others who they might not agree with, by listening to others who they disagree with, they can then help themselves grow and develop their own views.
Thank you. Laurie, you had a question?
Yeah, so apologies, I haven't been here for the whole of it, so my question's about Union Council. Has a question been asked?
No,
okay. So I'm one of the current facilitators of Union Council, and I was wondering, this twofold question. Firstly, what would you do to kind of streamline Union Council and sort of redevelop the democratic procedure in our university or within our SU? And secondly, how would you engage more students in democracy and get more students engaged in sort of the SU and the way that the SU works?
So, 2 questions there. Do you guys want 30 seconds?
Sorry, could you please repeat the
Yeah,
question?
of course,
again?
yeah. So firstly, how would you look at streamlining the current democratic procedure of the SU? So that's including Union Council, DPC, etc. And secondly, how would you get more students involved in democracy?
Okay. Everyone understands the question? Yep. Chosen one.
So, my campaign's been a lot about positivity and fun. That's what we want to bring. If we bring that to a democratic process, we're going to invite people to come to the democratic process. And even if we're talking Union Council, we're talking this democratic process as a whole across the university, even in general elections across the nation. If we can invite people to have a debate, to find democracy interesting, and to want to listen, and to be able to put their views forward, but also feel happy to have their views argued against, without it being an attack, but actually an intelligent discussion, then we can streamline the democratic procedure. We can certainly make it tighter. We can look at the problems that already exist in that area, because you need to talk to people and say, okay, what are the problems? What are the pros? How can we make the pros pro-ish and the cons less present? And it's, again, all about communication. If we just talk to each other, then we can do an amazing job at making this SU absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Ismail, sorry, I didn't hear you. Go on.
They say, students like politics, but not politicians. One way in which you can engage more students is actually make the Union Council more attractive for them to turn up. I was not aware of Union Council meeting until I started the campaign trail, and I found out, okay, there's something this big going on. You could entice more students to come. Why just have it in University Park? One Union Council in Sutton Boynton, and one in Jubilee, one in University Park. Have some free pizza. Have it like a meet and greet where other societies can get to know each other. So it has to not have like a serious approach towards it because. We need more and I feel 21 is not enough to represent 34,000 students' views, so I would like to increase that number to include more people.
Thank you. Emma?
So I think that one of the biggest issues with streamlining the democratic process and getting more exposure for Union Council is that most people just don't know what the SU does. And most people just don't know that the SU affects them in more ways than they think. So I think a big way that you could engage more people and that you could streamline the process is just by increasing the transparency and increasing the engagement. So by making sure that it's accessible to more students as well. And I can tell you, students in Derby would have no idea. And also students on Jubilee as well. So it's just about maybe pushing more engagement and from the very beginning pushing more what the SU is about and creating that engagement. Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree with this. I want to make it more student friendly, just make it something people actually want to go to as opposed to resenting having to turn up and having to give an opinion. Make it more streamlined by talking to the appropriate people and know what's going to go on beforehand. But also inviting the appropriate people, so inviting presidents of every society and every sport and make it more inclusive to people. But having it student friendly, like the pizza idea, is fantastic. People will turn up and be more engaged because people do care about it, they're just not aware of what's going on. So increasing the marketing of it and just making it a more fun event essentially.
Yeah, so I think, similarly to Ismail, I wasn't aware of the Union Council before I started this, campaign trail. And actually, as someone who's very involved in the SU in lots of different areas, when someone said, "Oh, have you ever been to the Union Council?" I felt absolutely ridiculous, having never heard of it. And I think, we do need to make it more student friendly, and we do need to make it fun to go to. But actually, there are people out there like myself who, if if they were aware of it, I would go to that anyway. Pizza or no pizza, I would have been there going, yeah, I want to talk about this. Like, we've got the whole debating society, they would love to go to it. And really, we need to make sure that these things are representative of the students. We need to make sure that everyone knows about it, everyone knows where it's going on, what it's about, why it's important. And I just think if we improve our publicity, the people who are interested and will have a good say in it, they will come to us.
Thank you. Stefan?
So democracy isn't about pizza, but I have been to the Union Council and like some of the candidates here, but the first time I went, I thought that this isn't actually democracy. What you have is a group of unelected representatives who are chosen randomly, who are unaccountable, because you cannot account for the decisions they make. The decisions they make have ramifications for more than 34,000 students. What you need is actual democracy. You need to bring in representatives from all areas of the university so that they can all have a say on student policy. We need to completely reform the Union Council so it is much more inclusive of the societies, of the halls, of all the other student interest groups that are out there, because then that way members who are part of these groups can then have a direct representative to go to for the Union Council, so that decisions can be accounted for. This isn't democracy. You need to have complete overhaul of the Union Council.
Can I quickly add to that?
Yeah,
Is that okay? So I think I agree with what Dipan's saying, in that it's just not representative at the minute, and the whole accountability thing. But I think we don't need to be scared of that. Like, it's not like a whole, I understand the reform kind of idea, but I think it's quite a big scary word, and really, like, we do need to reform it, but we can do that as it's going along, and we don't need to completely be like, oh, this is terrible, let's scrap the whole thing. All that needs to happen is we use the mailing lists that we've got to send out an email to all the presidents and to send out an email with all the people who are already engaged, and they will come to us to do that.
Just let
Yeah, can I just reform isn't just a big scary word. I mean, let's take for example the University of Manchester Union elections, which in about a couple of years ago they had record low turnouts, like less than 15% or something, and they realised that, well, students just frankly didn't care and they weren't being represented, so they had to get it into their heads that things needed to change, and they radically changed. And one of the things that happens in Manchester is all of the SU executives are on the trustee board, so they all have decision-making powers, and more societies and more people are actually represented within the decision-making process of student policy. Now, what happened as a result of that? The next year, they actually elected amongst the highest voter turnouts ever in the country, because reform, it's not a bad, scary word. It's a positive word for change. It brings more students into the political process. That is what we need to do.
Thank you very much. Very interesting debate. One last question from the back, from Graham. This is going to have to be 30 seconds, I'm afraid, because we've got the education candidates coming on next.
So as a student representative, you often have to have meetings and work with senior members of the university who have different potential agendas to you guys. So the university are about protecting the image and making sure that the image of the university is great, so they get enough students in to make enough money for the university to supply everything. But what students sometimes want to have is just a great time without any sort of shackles on their behaviour or any sort of people telling them how to behave. How do you balance the issue of students want to be free and have fun with the university trying to protect its reputational image?
Yeah, Jess?
Yeah, so once again, I just think transparency of decisions. The students have to understand that the reputation of the university not only is important to the big dogs at the top of the chain, it's important to them, because at the end of the day, when we come out with our degree, we need to know that employers are going to go, oh, University of Nottingham, that's a good university. So I think once students understand that that also is important to them, as well as having fun, I think it becomes less of a problem.
Thank you, Mary.
Again, this is a process that Bram and I are currently going through at the moment with my sports club. I think transparency is just the most important thing that there could be. If students are aware of the decisions and why it's happening, then they'll have less of an issue of it, as opposed to just being told, this is the situation, this is happening. That will cause people to dispute it and be annoyed by that happening. If it's explained exactly, precisely what's going to happen and why it's going to happen, it'll be just a lot more clearer.
It was more of a reference to the welcome issue last year.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, so you were saying it's more about an issue of the Welcome Week in terms of
stuff where students are potentially behaving in a way that puts the university at reputational risk. Happens across all of our student groups at certain times of the year.
Okay.
But senior management of the university have been trying to make sure it doesn't.
So obviously the people that will be saying this are unelected bureaucrats, and what we need to address is the fact that they are educated. They're trying to run a business, basically. They want people to come to our university. They want to make our university one of the best for graduates. They want to make our university one of the most highly regarded educational systems in the country. So we need to respect that, and we need to have the transparency and communication to say to students, look, your behaviour wasn't applicable there. And at the same time, if you're saying that to someone, it probably means that there's another student in the university that also feels the same way. If they didn't like the fact that someone was out at, till 2:30 in the morning making noise, we need to sort of have those platforms so people can come talk to us about those problems, be them students or other people, bureaucrats.
Where's your ending line? Emma?
I'm saving it.
Over the past couple of years, I've seen a few waves of students come through during Welcome Week and involved in a few things, and I think I think I've seen that that's becoming less of a problem, and students are getting less engaged in things, and students are focusing more on their degrees and how they look as potential employees. So I think already there's a change happening. But again, I believe it's about collaboration with the university. I think there's a big gap between the university and the Students' Union, so I think that it would be important to maybe bridge that gap a little bit more and to get some more collaboration between the two.
Thank you.
The university always is in our best interest for students' welfare, well-being, image, degree, employability and stuff. So if they feel that our actions might threaten their vision, we need to rethink what we are doing wrong and try to work in alliance of universities' global mission, because like the Chosen One said, they are doing this for over 80 years, so they know what to do, what not to do.
Thank you. Stefan?
I think during Welcome Week students like to have fun, but at a certain point there is a limit in which there's a red line in which if you do certain things that it does make the university's image look bad. And I think what happens is that what we should be doing is we should be empowering all of the students to take part in this decision-making process, so that they all know because students know themselves how to behave. It's not impossible. We all made it to university and we all are well behaved. So if we empower students to make these decisions, and if we engage in the dialogue with the university, we can then better improve student experience and the overall image of the SU with regards to the university.
Yeah, I'll go answer. So the reason I asked that question is because in my position I felt that was one of the most difficult things to do as officers. So you guys will have to deal with that. So.
Thank you very much for the question. Very quickly, in 10 seconds, can you wrap up as we need to go on to the education candidates? 10 seconds on why you should be president. Stefan, start with you.
The Students' Union is an old, archaic organisation which needs reform. It needs to be representative of the majority of students, not just those who vote and pass through Portland every day. It needs to represent everyone, including those that don't vote. We need to reform the union to represent these students.
Thank you.
If elected SU president, I will go the extra mile to make you smile.
Emma?
I hope I've demonstrated that I have got a wider understanding of the SU, and I have made sure that my manifesto points are realistic and achievable, so I'd like to make it happen.
Thank you.
Geronymous is all about playing to your potential. Do what you can. If you're intelligent, play at that intelligence and make sure that you make your experience life as fun as possible. And that is what Geronymous is all about.
Thank you, Mary.
My manifesto is all about making you guys matter, so I want you to vote for the president who you want to represent you and whoever will make you matter most.
I'm ready for the challenge of representing everybody. It's not going to be easy, but you know, I'm ready for it. Let's just do it. Let's do this.
Thank you very much to all of you.